Hey babes, welcome to the very first episode of the BJJ Babes Podcast, a place where women in the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu share their stories of their journey on the mats. I'm your host, Laura Christina. Each episode will be diving into the story of a different woman in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're going to talk to women at all belt levels, all experiences. We'll talk to hobbyists, competitors, and everything in between. We're going to find out why they started, what got them hooked, what they love, what challenges them, and more. It's Jiu-Jitsu through the female gaze. I want to tell these stories because I'm trying to find my own place in Jiu-Jitsu. I'm hoping exploring other women's journeys will help me define my own path. But more than that, I want to inspire other women. Whether they are on their path, maybe they need a reset or some kind of perspective, or maybe they need a push to get started. So with that introduction, let's jump into our first story, which is mine. A brief introduction. I'm a blue belt. I just got my blue belt back in May. It's August 2nd right now. I've been training for a little over 2 years now. I got my blue belt right at about the 2-year mark. I train at the UFC Fit in Point Loma in San Diego, California. And I consider myself a competitive hobbyist in that I do compete, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not a full-time job for me. It's something I do after work, and I compete more for my own development than because I'm trying to win a world title. It just makes me better and challenges me to be the best version of myself. So that's really why I compete. The first question is, what got me started? So I moved to San Diego in April of 2022. I was about to turn 36. And before I moved here, I was in a relationship with somebody who was going to be long distance, and he was supposed to follow me out here. And we'd talked about us both starting martial arts, and he was like, I'd really like you to get into martial arts, I think from the self-defense perspective. So I was looking at schools already, wasn't really certain of what discipline. And then when I got to San Diego, this guy broke up with me. So I'm in that typical rebound mode, looking for a reset for my life. And I just started considering taking up martial arts on my own. And the UFC gym was advertising on my Facebook. So I went in for a tour, and they showed me the facility, and I noticed it was a full gym that had weight rooms, cardio machines, regular gym classes, but also had martial arts classes. And so my mindset joining the gym was, well, I can try the jiu-jitsu, and if I don't like it, at least I'll have a gym membership. So that's what got me started. What was my first class like? So the gym management, which, I'm not going to comment on, they said I was fine to go into my first class, which was a gi class without a gi, just in exercise wear. The gym now has loaner gis for new people. So I go in with no gi, and it's this room full of people that I don't know, complete strangers. I think there was 1 or 2 girls in the class. It was incredibly intimidating. I remember one of the girls just came up to me and she was like, my name's Amanda. And she was so friendly and she seemed so excited that I was there. And I still train with Amanda, but I will say Amanda being friendly to me on day 1 really helped in terms of me sticking around, because that class, we started and the professor had everyone warm up with 100 arm bars, which from like a closed guard position. And, now I know what that is. I had no idea what that was then. And the people I was training with showed me, and I didn't even have the muscles to get my body into the position. It was so hard. I was like, what did I get myself into? And then, I will 100% admit that I spazzed all over everybody. I didn't know what I was getting into, and I'm still embarrassed about how everybody starts out spazzy, but I'm still embarrassed at how spazzy I was on day one. But I think overall I did enjoy the class because I just enjoyed how physical it was. And like I said, I'd just been broken up with. I was really sad. And I came out of the class feeling a little less sad because I didn't have time to be sad when I was getting my ass kicked. So that played a big part in why I came back and why I kept coming back, is that when I first got to a new city, I was not in a great place mentally. There was the breakup. There was the stress of the move. I suffer from an anxiety disorder, and I have panic attacks. I take Prozac for them, and I'm a huge advocate if it works for you. It works for me. I was off medication at the time, and my panic attacks were back. So I was really struggling, and I would go into class feeling on the verge of a panic attack, and I would come out of class and the feeling was gone. And so that's, in the beginning, really why I kept going back, because it helped my panic attacks. I did get back on medication and I have them under control now, but jiu-jitsu still helps with that for sure. And what got me hooked? I think it was the challenge over time. It's the fact that jiu-jitsu takes time to be good at. And I'm an impatient person. I get frustrated when I'm not good at something right away. I know that about myself. And it's really good for my self-discipline to force myself to have patience and understand that it is going to take me years. And I still won't understand everything, and I still won't feel good. What also got me hooked was the community, the people in my class. The girls, were the minority in the room, but, the girls I train with are amazing women. They're strong women, they're smart, and they kick my ass every week. And I just love being around them. And then the guys in the class at this point are like my brothers. Like, I give them shit. I tell them they smell. They drip sweat on me and laugh. And I tell them it's gross. And then they choke me out. And, we fist bump and call it a day. The community is like no other. It's incredibly fun. And so that's what got me hooked. How has my jiu-jitsu practice changed over time? So it's changed in a couple of ways. When I started, there were people in my class that were competing and they were talking about competitions. And I remember there were people in my class who hadn't competed yet but were planning on it. And they said, "Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to compete." And I didn't even know what competitions were. And then I found out what they were, and I didn't want to do it at all. I had no interest in competing. In part, back in 2017, a freak accident not involving any form of athletics or physical activity, I broke my collarbone, and I have a titanium plate in my collarbone. So I'm incredibly afraid of re-breaking my collarbone with the plate in, which is probably also why jiu-jitsu is better for me than like a striking art or like judo. Even though we do throws in jiu-jitsu, it's not as much as judo. So I didn't think I would ever compete. Last summer, there was a competition scheduled for October, Jiu-Jitsu World League, which is a pretty common competition series all over the country. And a lot of my classmates were signing up. The coach said, our coach is very much, if you want to compete, he encourages it. He's there for you. He's a great coach. If you don't want to, that's fine too. He's not going to push it. But he said to the class, "This is a good one. If you even just want to try it once, You're guaranteed at least 2 matches. A bunch of the team's going to go. It'll be a fun day. It's at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. And so I signed up because I figured I'll try it once. I have a practice in my life of taking myself out of my comfort zone and making myself do things that I thought I would never do. It's why, one of the reasons I started jujitsu. It's why I started surfing. It's why in 2018 I blew up my entire life in the city of Baltimore and moved to Guam, which is another part of my life story not involving jujitsu. And so I basically used the same principle and signed up for this competition. I lost horribly both fights. I got submitted both fights. But I went from someone who thought they would never compete to now I've competed 4 times. And it's because I love what competition does for my training. When I'm in like a month or 2 before a competition, my training becomes very focused. I start thinking about how I can tangibly improve my technique, improve my cardio, improve my game plan. And then I go to the competition, and then the week after, it's playtime. The competition's over. However it went, I spot some holes in my game, spot some areas for improvement, and now I'm just the next week after in class, it's playtime on the mat for me. The pressure's off, and it's some of the most fun I have training is the week after a competition. Another way it's changed over time is that I started going once or twice a week. When I was studying for my blue belt and working hard to get my blue belt, I was training maybe 5-6 days a week, but I would go to like 2 to 3 classes on Saturdays. And it was starting to take over my life. And I hit a moment before my last competition where it felt like too much. It was hurting my personal relationships because I was always training. And so I had to find a happy medium. I'm not back to only training once or twice a week. I still train 3 to 4 times a week, but I go to 1 class on Saturday. I am not afraid to miss training to make plans with friends or with my significant other. And so I've gone from it being a small part of my life to almost consuming my life to now having a balance where it's still a big part of my life and it's important to me, but I balance it with other things. And I'm fine. I don't want to burn out. I don't want to get the blue belt blues and quit. And so I'm finding my balance right now. What do I love about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I think I've touched on a few of these, but I love the challenge. I love the physicality. I love, even though it's incredibly physical, it also feels like my brain gets a workout. It's puzzle pieces and math problems. And I love watching. I'm such a nerd in that I actually love watching gi competitions because I love watching 2 really talented black belts in the gi make these little movements and little adjustments to counter each other. I find it fascinating and it's almost mentally relaxing for me. And when I'm rolling with somebody and it's more of a strategic role, I love the way that we both play with each other and play with the movements and counter each other to see what's working. I love working through that. I think it's incredibly fun. My brain loves it. And I think it's incredible for my mental health. What do I find most challenging about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I think some of the gym bros, and it's not the guys on my team who go every day because they know how to roll with women, and it's not about winning for them. It's about both of us learning. It's the guys who come in like day one white belts and haven't learned yet and are like, I can't let a girl beat me, or like, I'm going to beat this girl up. And they just muscle you. And it's like, I've just reached a point where I'm like, you know what? If they are walking out the door feeling good because they beat a blue belt, beat in quotation marks, then like, whatever. Because like, for me, the role wasn't about me beating them. The role was about what can I practice on this person to get better. And so, yeah, maybe they won the role because they tapped me, but my jujitsu's going to get better while theirs will probably stay the same and not advance unless they, eventually learn. And some of them do, how to train with women and the fact that women can make your technique better if you focus on technique with them. And a lot of the guys that come in, it's fun to see. It's fun to see them realize that and make that switch, and they become great rolling partners. What advice would I give to someone just starting out day one at their first class? I would say breathe. Focus on your breathing and don't be upset because you feel like you're spinning your wheels. Just keep trying. Focus on your breathing and don't give up just because you're not good at it right away. People that are good at jujitsu right away are the exception, not the rule. They're freaks. Not all of us are BJ Penn. I will. It's been a really steep learning curve for me, and I feel like in some ways I pick up on things slower than some of my teammates, and it gets frustrating sometimes. But you know what? Everyone's path is different. And it's not about comparing myself to others. It's about comparing myself to myself and trying to be better each time and trying to beat yesterday's version of myself. And so that's a wrap on episode 1. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. I have an Instagram for the podcast. It is at BJJ Babes Podcast. So give it a follow. Eventually, I'll set up an email. If you like to share your story, send me a message on the podcast. But until then, until next time, later, babes. Bye.